The robber pretended to come to the bank to deposit money, but when he realized that everyone in the lobby of the bank was holding tens of thousands of dollars in cash, he was so envious that his eyes glistened with envy. Jack wandered over to the counter. Then he pulled out all his money and gave it to the staff. $10, deposit. And the clerk sees that it's only $10. She says, "Man, what the fuck is wrong with you?" With the idea that the customer is God. The clerk had to follow the rules and make the deposit for Jack, and Jack himself was stealing to observe the bank's internal environment and security procedures. After a series of detailed and thorough investigation, Jack rented a shabby house in the harbor 70 meters away from the bank. He used bedclothes and rags to cover all the gaps in the house. Using a nail and a piece of twine, he drew a large circle 1 meter in diameter on the living room floor. Then he turned on the TV and turned up the sound. Under the cover of the TV's sound, he picked up a small drill and followed the circle drawn on the floor, drilling furiously. His real goal was to dig a tunnel from the house to the bank vault. He's going to steal $340 million in cash from the vault, and then take the money to his ex-wife to settle the score. So Jack dug by day and worked by night. He dug for 7 days. The darkness of the tunnels had a serious impact on the progress of the bank's vault. Jack, being an electrician, had to go back to his old job. He found a small coil of wire and attached it to a light bulb. Then he fixed the bulb in the tunnel to provide light for himself. He was worried that the drill would attract the attention of those around him, so he went to the landlord and lied that he couldn't stand the noise of the bridge being built in the harbor. He said, "Listen, it's so fucking noisy around here. It's like banging drums. How can anyone rest? I want my rent back. I want my rent back." The landlord says, "No, no, no, I'll drop the rent by $500. Jack then learns that the landlord's house has been getting back rent because of the noise from the harbor. He immediately realized that the sound of his digging would not attract anyone's attention, so he got 2 pieces of twine. He tied the rope to a pulley and fixed it above the entrance of the tunnel. The pulleys were used to transfer the dirt dug out of the tunnel. He then proceeded to pretend to come to the bank to deposit $10. Since Jack had been coming to the bank to deposit $10 too many times lately, in less than half a month, he started talking to the bank guards as if they were his buddies. Then he took advantage of his conversation with the bank guard, and he found out from the guard that the bank's vault was located to the left of the counter. More importantly, the surveillance system in the vault had been in disrepair for a long time and was no longer working, so he immediately went home to dig hard. He was ready to steal the bank down to its underwear. Jack, in order to remind himself to keep in mind the original intention of finding his ex-wife to settle the score, he put a picture of his ex-wife in the tunnel. That's it. Jack was stimulated by his ex-wife's photo. He dug for more than 180 days. He finally dug a tunnel leading to the bank's vault. However, when he went through the hole to the vault, he was totally confused. The man clanks twice, smashing through the floor of the bank vault. Then he carefully walks through the hole in the floor. He found a vault full of money. He was so happy. He proudly made a video call to his ex-wife, showing off that he's worth $340 million. When Ina saw her ex-husband on his cell phone, he was surrounded by money. She was so envious that her eyes glazed over. She immediately left her boyfriend behind, and then turned around and remotely directed Jack to buy rice over the phone. She said, "Who the hell would have thought you'd hide money in rice? You can't go wrong if you listen to me, honey." Jack realizes that the old bitch is still dead set on money, so he pretends to forgive her. He said, "You're still fucking smart." Just as Ina was fantasizing about becoming a rich woman with Jack's money, she realized that she couldn't get in touch with Jack. She thought Jack had taken revenge on her and ran away with the money on purpose. Ina was furious and confused. Immediately after that, she learned from the TV that if she could provide clues about the bank thief, she could get a $500,000 reward from the FBI. So she immediately took her boyfriend to the police again. She said, "Officer, I know who stole the bank. I just want to know if your $500,000 in cash is real." The police said, "Don't worry, as long as you help the police to catch the thief, the reward will definitely be given to you." When Ina heard this, she opened her mouth wide and let the police check the video on her cell phone. The content of the video was exactly the one that Jack had sent to her earlier, but after the police looked at the cell phone, without saying a word, they arrested the 2 people for committing a crime together. Ina pissed herself. She immediately told the police that she was willing to lure Jack to show up, but only if the police can't put her in jail. Unbeknownst to her, this was Jack's plan. It turns out that after Jack showed Ina the money in the vault, he went back to the rental house to get the tools to move the $340 million in the vault. But when he returned down the tunnel with the tools, and then he realized that all the money in the vault was gone. There wasn't even a dime left. Jack was in a daze. Then he found an unfamiliar cigarette case in the tunnel. A cigarette case he'd only seen in the hands of the bank's guards. The man discovers that all $340 million in the vault have disappeared. The next thing he knows, the guards are the only ones who came by the rental house and asked him out for a drink. Jack immediately decides that the guard must have found the fucking tunnel he dug. Then he puts on a show for him and steals the money. Then he kicked him out and made him a scapegoat. But now the heat was on. Jack was sure the guard would be afraid to show his face, so he played it safe and offered to leak his whereabouts to Ina so that the police could come and arrest him. When the guards learn of this, they'll gradually lower their guards and start showing up with the money. By this time, Jack had already arrived at the prison as planned, but then he dug another tunnel. Unnoticed, in just a month, he escaped. He learned that the guard was hiding in a hotel in New Delhi. Jack rushed into the hotel without saying a word. He asked him where the $340 million was. He found out what he expected. It was the guard who had discovered Jack's secret tunnel to steal from the bank, so he and the bank manager stole the money. Then he framed Jack for the crime. Jack then returned to his country house with his ex-wife and the $340 $340 million. Ina thought Jack had forgiven her, as the two of them moved the money to the cellar. While Ina was happily counting the money, Jack sneaked back up the ladder to the surface. Then he removed the cellar's only wooden ladder. He locked the money-loving old bitch in the cellar with the $340 million. Immediately afterward he spilled coffee all over the villa and lit a fire.